folks, welcome back to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel. Today on the operating table we have a Stihl MS500i. If you guys didn't catch the video the other week when we went to Northern Tool and Equipment and we took this chainsaw all the way down to bare bones and saw what happens when you put the wrong fuel in your chainsaw. Now, for reasons undisclosed, it can't be warranted with this repair, with this type of repair. This is basically almost a full rebuild on this chainsaw. This is a 500i. I could have sent it off to a fancy saw shop and had them upgrade the fuel injection, do all that stuff, spend a couple $1,000 and have a $5,000 paperweight, or we could order parts from our local Northern Tool and build it ourselves. So today we're gonna take this chainsaw back down to bare bones and we're gonna show you guys what happens when you put the wrong gas in your chainsaw, and we're gonna show you how, hopefully, to rebuild it. And by the end of this, we'll be running this chainsaw. So come along, let's have a little bit of fun working on the Stihl MS500i that we put the wrong fuel in. First things first, I am not a chainsaw expert. I don't claim to be a chainsaw expert, but you probably are. I'm telling you, reach back there, pat yourself on the shoulder, and give me some good condescending comments, because I appreciate those. No, but seriously, guys, if you have any input and you want to help out, please post it down there. We can all learn from each other. I really appreciate constructive criticism. Destructive criticism, well, it's kind of self-explanatory. This tool is called a ratchet scrinch. Instead of your regular old plain old Jane scrinch that you have back in the day that comes with the saw, this is called a ratchet scrinch, and it's basically a ratcheting chainsaw tool. Won't need to ratchet too awful much, but it's kind of helpful. So I'll post a link down there. I met the owner of Ratchet Scrinch not too long ago. Very smart, very sharp guy. Really cool that they're kind of modernizing the idea of working on a chainsaw with a ratcheting chainsaw tool. Very cool. Pretty inexpensive too. I'll post a link to it. This is a pro grade type saw. We're gonna get the sharp stuff out of the way real quick, and I'm actually gonna put some rubber gloves on just because I don't want to get grease all over things that grease shouldn't be on. I can wipe gloves off a whole lot easier than my hands. No, really, it's because I'm a wuss and I have to wear gloves. All right, off that cover, we're gonna set all our parts to the side here. Just a few tools will be needed. We're gonna get this chain and bar off. As we go, we didn't clean the saw up a whole heck of a lot. This is not my saw. This is a friend of mine's saw. Well, I guess it is. He gave it to me. He said, Josh, take it. If you can fix it, fix it. If you can't, it's a paperweight. So, simple enough. We don't want to make it a paperweight. It's a Stihl 500i. This saw, brand new, cost around the $2,000 mark. Now, I get a lot of comments about that. You know, only a dummy would buy a $2,000 chainsaw. Well, there are dummies out there buying them every day. I don't know what else to tell you, other than I'm not a dummy, and I didn't buy the saw. I do have one, though, and I really, really like it. Okay, so we'll start popping all of our covers off. This thing is loosely assembled right now. If you want to see the full video of us disassembling it back a couple weeks ago, I'll post it down there, and we'll get you a little footage of the full disassemble right now. So most of these bolts are T27. We will torque them to spec when we put the head back on this thing, and we're going to be removing the cylinder head. So currently I'm just taking apart the throttle body assembly. Everything is very, very loosely installed currently. Good. There it is. What are you doing that for? Oh, there you are. Throttle body assembly removed. In the slide over here, there are 4 bolts that hold the exhaust system in place. And we also need to take the handle off. While we're taking this apart, let me explain to you guys what happened to this saw. This saw belongs to a good friend and neighbor of mine. His name is Tony. Tony had a young man working for him, and this young man still works for him. Great kid, great guy. A momentary lapse of judgment had him putting the wrong fuel in this chainsaw. This was probably not so much his fault. The other video I published about this is the stupidest thing you can do to your chainsaw, and it is pretty stupid to do this to your chainsaw. Now, that being said, another friend of mine has convinced my other friend that you should burn aviation fuel in your power equipment. Aviation fuel is low lead, 101 typically, 101 octane, and you can run aviation fuel, I believe, don't hold me to this, but you guys can post a comment. You can run it, I do believe, on any machine that doesn't have a catalytic converter. That's what I'm told. Now, I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not the expert. You guys are the experts, so you tell me. So that being said, aviation fuel has a different color to it. A color much more similar to mixed gas. So, to the fella's defense that cooked this chainsaw, really it's not his fault. Because the fuel was a different color. It was a bluish hue, and aviation fuel looks similar to mixed gas. Got to slip our handle out of here. Cliff at Northern Tool made this look so easy. Let me tell you. Separate fuel tank and our trigger. 3 little electrical plugs in here. There we go. Cool. Separate our fuel canister and everything. This piece right here needs to slip off. Alright, our handle. Get that out of the way. Pretty much down to bare bones right here. We've got to remove the cylinder really quickly. We'll need a different wrench for that. I had to deploy some of my old T27 Craftsman here. 4 bolts hold the cylinder in place. Our head should slip right off, our cylinder head. Oh, it's not going to slip off because we forgot to take the muffler off. Let's get that muffler assembly out of the way. Remember, all this stuff is very loosely installed the other day after we took it apart at Northern Tool. And the reason we didn't fix it at Northern Tool is because I wanted to give it a try. I like to learn. Let's see if I can mess this up. Okay, muffler assembly should slip right off. Here we go. You can see up in there, that's where our cylinder is going to be here in just a second. Our piston is already on the wall of shame at my buddy Tony's house. Muffler assembly is off. Hang on to all the gaskets. As per the tips that I got from Cliff at Northern Tool, just keep your screws with whatever they came out of. Now, our head should come off. Okay, we'll slide this guy out of the way. And off with her head. Cool. What we got hung up on there? Oh, there's a assembly right here that's got to come off. This is all the electronics associated with this 500i. There we go. Look at that. Now the last piece right here, part of the electronic system. Little rubber gasket right there. Slip that guy off. That guy back in his happy place. So, looking into our engine down here, this is our bearing. This is a roller bearing setup that goes on the piston right here. This is our piston rod, and that is the crank right down in there. Okay, this gasket is the head gasket and will need to be replaced. We have a new head gasket and all of our parts right in here. It's a little chilly outside. It's 20 degrees right now ish. Just had a new baby calf, which is way cool. New addition to the farm. I ordered some extra goodies in here. This is an extra goodie. This is a plug that deletes the compression release on that chainsaw. Kind of cool. Open up our parts box. And inside, we'll just lay out our towel here. A brand new shiny cylinder with a brand new shiny piston, pre-installed piston rings on there. Awesome. A new bearing and retainer, actually a couple retainers in case I mess up. And I forget what you call this. You guys are gonna have to remind me. That little guy right there. Forget what you call that. I'll remember in just a minute. That's what holds our piston in place, and it only goes in one way. Piston is just sitting in here, and that's what a brand new shiny piston right from steel looks like. That's called the wrist pin. I forgot what it was called. Inside here, our new head gasket and some random cardboard. And what do we have in this box? Oh, that new gasket for our throttle assembly. Nice. Now all we gotta do is put it back together, right? As we got busy doing this job, I realized very quickly that I needed more stuff, more tools. So we went over to the auto parts store and we picked up some Lucas assembly lube and a piston ring compressor kit, which I hope works. And the biggest thing was I misread the paperwork that said it needed to be 126 foot-pounds. It's actually 12.6 foot-pounds according to my resources. I also had to go buy one of these torque sets. The reason being, on our new cylinder, a new cylinder and our old cylinder, basically we needed to get all the way to our head bolt right there, our cylinder head bolt. The only way to do that was to get an extra large extension or extra long extension. I actually don't have it over here with me right now, but I had to buy this kit in order to put the torque wrench to it. New cylinder wall looks like, nice and shiny. Let's get you a shot right up there, nice and shiny. And here's what our old cylinder wall looked like, and it's scuffed and scarred right down in there. I don't know how bad you guys can see it, but the piston actually welded to the inside of this piston wall. So this is our old guy. We're actually not going to put back our compression release. That's right up here on the top of the engine. I got a compression release delete, and we're going to install that critter on there. So pretty cool. This is a compression release. We will save all these parts in case we need them, or in case we decide we want to put the compression release back on this saw. We're going to go ahead and get our saw body over here. And this has our connecting rod, which connects to our piston. And it has a bearing down there in the crank. We determined that the bearings in the crank were just fine. Everything turns freely in there. No noises, nothing to really worry about. So we should be good to go with our crank assembly down here. We just have to reinstall everything else. So this is a roller bearing with needle bearings in it. I forget exactly what you call that. And our piston and our wrist pin for our piston and our retainer clips are right here. So the first thing I need to do is clean up in here and get our new head gasket in place. This is our old head gasket right here. So the bearing assembly goes in right through here. Then the piston goes on, then the wrist pin, and then we put this little catch wire in here, which is they send you two because evidently they spring off and get lost. So that's how it has to go. We have to get the piston into the new head, and you can see that the piston rings stick out pretty far. The piston rings are aligned with some pins that are in this on this piston. As I rotate it around, you can see there's one of those pins. You see that little blue dot? And then there's another one over here. There's another little blue dot, and that's where you need to align the gap for your piston. So these rings come pre-installed, but you have to make sure you align the piston gap with this little pin right here. Super simple. This one is already lined up with it. We're gonna wipe off our gasket surface real quick. Make sure we're not getting any filth in there. This is the exhaust side, okay? Set this guy in place. just like so. All of my drawings tell me that my piston, my new piston, has an arrow on it. This arrow points toward enemy, okay? So the arrow points toward the exhaust side. I'm gonna line up these piston rings exactly the way they're supposed to be so they set in appropriately. And here is the compression release adapter. Goes in right there. Get it started. Snug it down. Wrench it into place. And we'll double check up inside the cylinder that it's not sticking out. Again, our rings lined up toward enemy, arrow, towards exhaust port. Okay. I need to put my bearing in here, and this is where my assembly lube is going to come into play. It's a brand new can of Lucas Oil assembly lube. Everything I've ever heard about rebuilding any engine always says use lube. Use a lot of lube. So lubricate, lubricate, lubricate. We're going to go ahead and put a little lube inside where our bearing goes here, just a dab. I'm going to put a little bit on our new bearing. Just grease it up good, inside and out. There we go. Slide that guy in place, just like so. Get him nice and greasy. I'm going to grease up our wrist pin just a little bit also. And our new cylinder wall is beautiful and polished. We're going to go ahead and lubricate the inside of that also. This might make it a little tough to start at first, but that's okay. We're just going to run a little lube right down in there and make things happy when they go back together. We're also going to grease this piston up just a little bit too. These rings and this piston, just like so. Might be a little too much assembly lube, but that's okay. Want to make sure everything goes into place just like it should without causing any premature wear on our engine. All right. Our rings are not lined up. Now they are there, and they are there. Our piston needs to go onto the piston connecting rod here, just like so. And we're going to push our wrist pin through, and it only goes in one way. And it's not that way. There we go. There's a few videos out on YouTube of folks rebuilding saws like this. And there's one guy that puts his retainer clips in for his wrist pin first. Might be a challenge, but that'll really make it a challenge. Okay. Our wrist pin is in place. Oh, we do have a retainer on both sides of the piston. I didn't know that. Now I do know. Here's the retainer. Oh, and this is going to be a challenge. I think one side needs to be done with the piston off of the machine, to be honest with you. So let's push this wrist pin back out. It'll go in both ways. Did not know that. This assembly lube is ooey gooey ooey. So you got a notch in here to remove that pin, and then this side doesn't have a notch, but you got to have a pin in that side. So trusty Milwaukee tool time. We're going to take this little retainer, pinch it in our needle nose, and not lose it. There we go. Easy enough. Make sure our rings are lined up appropriately still. We have our wrist pin lubricated, ready to go. Now our second retainer clip needs to go in on this side. And this one's going to be a challenge, I'm sure. They're easy to get out. They're not so easy to get back in. I've got a tiny pair of needle nose right here. I think this will help us. Hot dog. was easy. Whew, that was almost too easy. Daddy likey. Piston rings not lined up right, now lined up right. We're gonna try our brand new shiny Duralast Auto Crafty Schmabba brand piston ring compression tool. I don't think this is gonna work at all because it doesn't have enough stroke to fit up in there. You can see there's just not enough stroke unless I just, yeah, it's not enough. Okay, there's a specific tool you can get to do this job, to accomplish this, but I think we're gonna try it just by hand real quick. See if we can just slide it in there. Hey, one ring good. Next ring. Oh, hey, we got it. Hate that piston ring tool didn't work quite like we wanted it to, but that's okay. This is T27 Torx, so you guys know virtually everything to disassemble this saw is going to be T27. 4 head bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, snugging it up hand tight. There we go. Now there's a torque spec here that we have to meet with each one. This was the biggest struggle for us to figure out how, in order to handle this, we were going to be able to torque these bolts down, and I didn't have a long enough Torx in order to get down in there and do it. So the way we're going to go is we're going to drop our Torx bit right in there where it goes. Okay. Then we're going to drop our extension down in there, just like so. Adapter right in there. Torque wrench, we're going to put it on 13. It's actually 12.6, so we're going to turn it to 12.6. 12.6. Perfect. Here goes nothing. Well, 0.6 is pretty good. There it is. Pop that guy back out. I'm gonna go on the other side. Repeat this process. Well, 0.6. Oh, baby. There we go. If I'm wrong on this, you guys let me know. If you're a pro saw builder and you're watching this layperson build a chainsaw, let me know. But from what I read, my torque specs are correct. And you want to get your head bolts torqued correctly, for sure. Well, 0.6. Come on, baby. Come on. Oh, that's it. That's easy. 1, 2, one more. Crank it. One more. One more. Yeah. Yeah. Instrumental tool set I didn't know I needed. I'll post a link for you guys, and to a torque wrench if you want it, and all the parts here that we use today. In case you want to rebuild a saw. You can buy aftermarket saw parts and put them back together and spend all your money. Or you can buy saw parts that are certified, made by Steel or Husqvarna or whoever you're working on, and have that peace of mind. I like the peace of mind versus buying cheap parts and putting back on my saw. So, reassembly from here, spark plug, everything got to go back to the way it was. Let's turn the engine over. Yeah, I think we're gonna be good. Let's reassemble. So we've replaced the cylinder on this 500i. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I hope this is inspiring to you guys to let you know you can do stuff like this too. You don't have to take it into a fancy schmancy saw shop. It's not that complicated. It just takes a bit of a procedure. So let's head outside, start this puppy up. It's snow on the ground outside. I really don't have anything to cut right now, but what I really want to know is, will it run? Will it idle? And I'll tell you guys about what I do to break it in. So we removed all the old fuel. In case you guys forgot, the reason this chainsaw is in this shape is because my buddy's farm helper decided to put the wrong kind of gas in it. I warned them, and if they're watching, I know he's watching this video, stop burning avgas, aviation fuel, in your power equipment. I know your neighbor does it, and I know he's never had a problem. The reason that this saw had the wrong fuel put in it is because avgas is blue and looks like it has oil in it, okay? The young man that put the fuel in it, I can't blame him. Now, he grabbed the wrong gas can, but avgas is blue. And so is this, mixed gas. So I really can't blame him so much, and I really need a funnel. There's really not a lot of difference between the color of avgas and the color of standard fuel. This is called Moto Mix. It is 93 octane steel Timber Sports 50-to-1 ratio. Would I rather run a little higher ratio the first time I start this saw? Probably so, but that's what we got. And we know we got mixed gas. So let's get her over here, see if we can get it to start. With a 500i, you do have a compression bubble. I know a lot of people hate that compression bubble. They say mash it 6 times. I see fuel. I think that's 6 or 7 right there. Lock our chain brake. Is he a good mechanic or not? Oh, daddy likey. Puppy warm up just a little bit right there for chainsaw break-in. Now, they say you don't have to break a chainsaw in if it's brand new from steel. However, rebuilding this saw, I want it to go through some warming cycles. So I want to let it idle for a little bit, let it warm up, rev it up a little bit, ease off, cut just a little bit of wood. In other words, make 2 or 3 cuts, let it idle, varying my idle speed and varying the wear on that new piston. Guys, it worked. We got the saw back running. That saw cost $1,795. It cost me $450-ish in parts and a little bit of time to get this done. So around $500 in parts, and we got the saw back running. Awesome. We'll see you guys next time. Super proud of myself. Reach over, pat myself on the back. You can do this too. So if you put the wrong gas in your saw, just order the parts, a new cylinder head, replace it, should be good. Thanks guys, we'll see you next time on the Stoney Ridge. Woo! Where's my scrunch? Ratchet scrunch. Alright, first things for my head's got off. If you gotta force it, it's probably not right. Am I wrong? This is making my brain cells hurt. How you doing up there? How you doing? Gotta get that John Deere. We got our saw back. Yeah! Nice. See you next time.